Hello and welcome to Hobby Vlog number 125. Here in Bulgaria right now, the sun is shining, my windows are open and the birds are singing, and that makes me happy, as you can see from the smile on my face. This week's been a fun week. I've been, like I said in the last week, I've been trying to take it a bit easier, trying not to feel as much, not trying to push myself as much, and it's worked. I've enjoyed every minute I've had of hobbying. I've done quite a lot not on camera. I've been working on this TCU Challenge, making the Mack truck, and haven't been filming that, so I've just been pottering away on that slowly but surely, a few minutes here, a few minutes there, as I do. But there are some other big chunky projects, like another TTCombat building set has been put together, but you'll get to see that if you watch the video. So please do enjoy it. Let me know in the comments below what you think. I reply to every single one of them. I appreciate every single one of you that watches and follows along with my hobby journey, and I hope that maybe this inspires you to go and do a little bit every day and deliver a lot when you just do a little bit. It's a really good way of working. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again at the end. Right, so now it's time to base up Olly the Mumlak, and I'm going to make use of Luke's APS, or Geek Gaming now, Mediterranean soil base ready. So I've got my fast drying glue, which is really the best stuff to use for this, and I am being massively lazy on this. I could paint and what have you the base, it's got a really nice textured base, but I don't want to, because I just want to use this. I want this to be what it looks like. What I've found best for spreading around this glue, which is very sticky, and it's really annoying if you get it onto your fingers or onto a brush of any type, is to use a toothpick to push it around. So that's my top tip for this. So what I'll do is I will get the base covered in the glue, and then I'll show you how I go about applying the base ready. Now I've done this loads and loads and loads on my channel, so yeah, I'll just quickly get this spread around. But yeah, I think I'm going to stop showing this off soon, because yeah, it's getting a bit repetitive. Let's get this done. Alright, so base is covered entirely in the glue. So now this pot is just too small to do my usual technique of digging it in, but I might be able to lift some and then let it fall down. There we are. And if you can't do that, then get in there with your hand and throw it on in the traditional way. So there we are. Get that nice good covering. I wanted this to be more sandy than green. I'll move that out the way. What you can see there is a really nice base that really sets off the rest of the colours on the miniature. So I'm very pleased with that. So that's him done. Fantastic. What I've actually realised is I've kind of made a little bit of a mistake here. Well, not a huge mistake, but it was a bit. Doing the separation, or attempt to do the separation of the track from the sides, actually isn't what I want to do, because I need to stick these horses in. These horses are going to be stuck on permanently, and so is the Wagon, obviously. So what I'm going to actually do now is glue these horses down just using PVA, and then when they're dry, what I'll be able to do is come along and build up the rest of the scenery around it. Now, I am currently umming and ahhing, and I might get the Dremel out and actually sand down some areas or little dips where the horses are going to be, so their bases can sit in a little bit more flush with the surface, so they're not quite as raised up, which will mean I won't have to lift the track as high up above the base, because it is quite a thick base for me really. So that's what I'm going to work on now. I'm going to get the Dremel out. I might put the camera on, or I will put the camera on if I do that, and see whether I can't bed these in a little bit more, but if that doesn't end up working, then I'll just glue them down, and then when that's done, I'll be able to start working on the terrain around it. And talking about that, I've been 3D printing some cacti, and so I have some awesome cacti which I can place around just to give a little bit of a of more flavour and colour, and that will be going in as well as part of this process. So yeah, let's get these pieces glued in, and then I can come in and blend them in, and then that will be basically done, which is pretty cool. The final and most complicated bit is going to be actually doing the rigging, and I'm not totally sure how I'm going to do that at the moment. These horses did come with a load of these little metal pieces designed to go between them, but that would only really work, I think, if you're actually tying it to one wagon, whereas I need to rig the whole lot together. So I'm going to have a play around with that. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to achieve it. That'll be an adventure for once I've totally finished, because obviously I don't want to have string or wire or whatever running down between the horses when I'm trying to get in with the terrain and the scenic material. Anyway, there we are. A little bit of talking, a lot of rambling. Let's get the Dremel out and see whether we can't get these horses in place. This is going to work. So I'm not going to film very much of this because it's going to be a very nasty sound. But basically what I've got is I've got the sanding wheel on the end of the Dremel, and if I actually, let me zoom that right in on what I'm going to sand, and then I'll put some music on, and you can see just how effective it is. So I've done a little bit, as you can see, on that bit there. So yeah, I'll put some music on, and you can see just how effective this is going to be. Hopefully it's going to be very effective. Now here is the horse, which is supposed to go there. So I will also be able to very quickly offer up and make sure that what I've sanded out is going to be sufficient. So yeah, here goes. Well, that worked very well, as you can see. That sits in nicely. It's pretty flush. Took a little bit longer than I hoped it would do, but I think that probably I'll get quicker and quicker as I go along, and that's going to be really, really cool to sit in and not have it too much above the level of the surrounding terrain, because now what I can do is come along, apply the paint over everything, which I'll do before I glue the horses in, obviously, so I'll paint everything again with this. And then I'll come in with some glue and do the scenicking of the terrain and what have you, and then glue the horses in once I've done that. So having these little hollows will really help with that. So I'm going to crack on with that, get the hoover out, hoover up the dust. It's not too bad actually, it's cleaner than I thought it was going to be. But I'll get all of the rest of these little hollows sanded out and bring you back for the next step when I get to it. We had 4 more packs left in this white box from Tabletop Scenics, and sorry, from TTCombat, apologies. The Tabletop Scenics range from TTCombat. And so what I've done is I've just gone and downloaded and printed out all the instructions for all the remaining ones, just so I can make sure that what I've got is everything, and I have, there's nothing missing. And I'm pretty excited actually, because there's a lot. There's a lot left, and I'm not sure what to build next. So I'm umming and ahhing about building the pitchstone bank, which is that one there, or building the municipal, which is actually like a couple of, like 3 buildings from the looks of it, which is pretty cool. I've also got here the saloon, which is the large building there, and finally Main Street, which includes a run of buildings, this one here, and the gallows as well. So I'm going to pick one of these now, live on camera, and then we're going to build that next. So I think we're going to build the bank. Going to build the bank next. So that's what this video is going to be. There we are. I've removed the single-use plastic, and I'm going to start putting this together. Now I think I'm going to film this slightly differently than I did the church, just because it's going to be a lot of repetitive stuff in terms of repeating what I did with the church. The instructions are, as I've already highlighted when I was building the church, very, very good indeed. They don't number the sprues, which is the issue that I have with them, so it can be a little bit difficult to identify where things are. But generally I think that you'll be able to work it out without me needing to point out how to find things. I will start the very first part of the build though on camera, and then I think I'll carry on and do most of it off camera, just because it might be interesting for you to see how I go about clipping things out and gluing things together. So the first thing we're going to do is step one, and step one requires you to have, I think, this one here. You can see it's got that funky shape on the front. And there must be another one with the similar funky shape on the front, but I don't see it on here. And then you're going to be taking, this is the one, I say it's obvious enough, but then you're going to need to put a centerpiece in there, which I'm not totally sure which one it is. I think it might be that one there, looking at it. So you put that one in between them. So what I'm going to do is going to take the piece that I know definitely that I'm going to need, which is that one, and show you how easy and how to go about snipping these out and getting these free. So there's little uncut sections that you can just push your knife through very, very carefully and relatively easily, he says. There we are. And that separates it from the sprue and means that they will then just fall through quite easily. So you're using a little bit of pressure, but not very much pressure, and that disconnects it all. Now, one of the things I really like about these TTCombat buildings, you see how easy that was to pop out, is the fact that they squash everything in. There's not much wasted space at all. So you've taken that little area out here, and everything is kind of just slotted in the best possible way, even to the point where you've got here, which is a blank, which is going to be knocked out because that's a window, but inside that they've made use of that space to put other items, and that's really cool. That's something you don't see on many of these MDF kits. So that there looks like it's this piece here, the one on the right, on the left, like that. So I'm going to identify that piece, and then I'll bring you back when I've got them cut out and I'm about to start gluing. Okay, so that was quite easy to do. I was easy enough to find the missing pieces. One thing to point out as well that sometimes you need to do is just push through some of these kind of like blanks, because yeah, if you don't do that before you've glued them together, then they can be quite annoying to get out, particularly without damaging your model. So just push those through. So this slots in under here, like so. And the other side slots in on the other side. And then one thing I had missed, which is that you actually need to, there's actually a 90-degree little kind of like piece to hold it square. So I've cut those out as well, and I'm going to glue all of this together as one, because that's going to be the best idea. So how I do that, I always use PVA. I don't use super glue. I'm not a big fan of super glue on MDF buildings. I know this is a big little Indian thing, where some people love it and some people don't. I know that the two fat lardies have a lot of fun laughing about it. Talking of which, there might even be some lardy action going on this Western terrain, because I believe that they're starting they're doing a game for Westerns. But anyway, that's muttering and chuntering to myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue that on like that, just put a little bit of PVA, and then a little bit of PVA on this area here, which is going to have the 90-degree section in it, and then do the other side, and then leave it. It is as simple as that. MDF buildings really are nice and easy to put together. So that goes on like that, and there you have a nice 90-degree corner that's nicely secure. So I will now do exactly the same thing, but to the other side. So this going on here, and then I'll bring you along if I come to something a bit more challenging, because like I say, I'm not going to film all of this. It's much the same as the church build. So if you want to see exactly how I go about doing all of it, watch the church video. But other than that, if there's anything interesting, I'll bring you along. But until then, let's hope that this gets wet though to the end, and all I do is show you a built building. I had a lot of fun this afternoon working on this building, and as you can see, I've got quite a long way. It's got a fair amount yet to be done still. However, yeah, it's definitely coming on. So I'm going to pack that away for now. We're going to get back to that again another time. But yeah, I'm going out for my tea, which is always nice. So yeah, I'm going to pack that up and get cracking on. I've got to step 53-ish, 50, 56. I've got to step 56, and there are 103. So I'm about halfway through the steps, and I did that in a couple of hours this afternoon. A few times I had to pause just to let things dry, but yeah, pretty happy with how it is, to be fair, and I think it's a really nice looking building. This was the hardest part, but doing these little bits in here, they're really annoying. But they went in eventually. Eventually they went off and stopped falling out. So yeah, good build. This has gone well, and I'm now getting ready to glue down the horses. So I'm just going to use a little bit of PVA in each of the wells that I've dug for the horse, and then glue them in. And then when I'm going out now, when I come back, I should be able to do the next step, which will be putting a little bit of paint on the bases, very little bit of paint, and then I'll be able to start actually doing the texturing is probably the word I'm looking for, isn't it? The texturing of all of these and of the whole thing. I didn't highlight, but I did actually sand down the side here slightly when I was doing all of my sanding, because I decided I do actually want to have it a little bit more of a smooth transition than I'd had. And the other thing to say is if the PVA doesn't hold it well enough, then I will replace the PVA with the grippy glue that I like using a lot at the moment. But I think the PVA should be enough. I hope it will anyway. Once I start adding all the other elements to it, it should be okay. So I'll let that dry now as it is, and yeah, sorry, making a lot of noise over there. That's looking really good. That's where the cart will go, and that's a really cool looking thing. So now with that all glued on, and you can see I've put a couple of cacti in as well. If you look over here, this bucket is unsifted builder's sand. And that's what I'm going to use. So I'm not going to try and go for multiple different applications of different sizes. This has literally just, if I just get a spoon, this has literally lots of different types and sizes of gravel. So I'm going to now, very carefully, I'm going to paint on some PVA. This is my watered down PVA. And I won't do most of this on the camera because it's going to be a bit of a fiddly one. And it'll be a bit boring to watch as well. Oh, I can move that out of the way. That's not glued in. But I'm going to basically, using a spoon, I'm going to start to apply the gravel. And as I've said, I'm also going to put some bigger lumps and stones in this side area. So let's just have a quick look at how this is going to work. I've got a spoon, and I'm going to come along, and I'm not worrying too much about about overloading it because I'll be able to shake it off. But we're looking at covering the whole thing with this. And once this is all done and dry, I'll come along with the paint, water it down, and seal it all over with the paint. Now, in terms of larger stones, I'm going to gather some up, and I haven't got one to hand, unfortunately. I'm badly planned, but I'll grab some and I'll just stick them in various areas where there's slightly larger stones, and that will then give a little bit more of an impression of where the track is as opposed to where the side of the track is. So I'm going to get that done. I'll bring you back when it's finished and show you what the end result looks like. So this is all dried, and I'm just really pleased with how well that went. I actually built that basically in 24 hours. Which is pretty cool. Good kit, that's what that shows. Good kit and easy to put together. So what I've got here is I've got my Winsor & Newton brown paint, and I'm going to do quite a basic paint and quick paint job on this. So we've got the ground floor here, and what I'm going to do, not quite that much paint, what I'm going to do is anywhere where there's wood, again not quite that much, going to need to take a little bit of that off, but anywhere where there's wood, and even where there's not, I'm just going to come along and paint this brown on it. Because what I'll then do is anywhere here, I'm then going to come along with a grout mix, probably white grout I think I'm going to do on this one, and I'm going to cover over anywhere where it looks like it's been rendered. I'm I'm going to cover over with a grout mix. So yeah, a very, very simple paint job, but hopefully it will look nice. Not going to go for the paint for the render. I'm going to render it properly. So yeah, I'm just going to keep doing this. It won't take me very long at all. I'll paint all of these railings brown as well. I think they would be wood. And what I can then do is come along and do a little bit of a dry brush with a different colour once this is dry. So I'll bring you back when I come to the dry brush stage. I'm just going to paint everything now. It's going to be very samey, so I won't bother filming it all. All of this will get painted in this nice dark brown. The insides, the walls, I'm going to leave. I'm going to paint the floors dark brown as well, and I may put some put a different colour on it eventually. But most of this is going to be rendered. But you can see that there are places where it does suggest that the render has fallen off, just in those little areas here. So I'll probably also put some paint on in those areas, so that I can then leave them free of grout and make it look nice. So yeah, very quick process. I'll bring you back when we come to the next step. The next of these TTCombat buildings I'm going to make, or set kits I'm going to make, is Main Street, Pitchstone Main Street. So what that has is a couple of 3 or 4 buildings, and also the scaffold. So yeah, again, as with the previous ones, if you want to see in detail putting these together, please watch the first video in this series, which was at the church, where I was showing quite a lot of detail how I go about doing this. But I will basically show daily progress and how I'm getting on in each kind of like session, and also if there's anything that I pick up on that's particularly bad or difficult about this kit, then I will bring that to the attention on the video. But otherwise it's going to be a very quick video showing how I do it and then how I paint it, which is fine. So yeah, so I'm going to crack on. Going to get the single-use plastic off the pack. It's a big thick chunk of MDF, this. Good, don't know how many, 12 sheets of MDF. So I'll get that started, start making this up, just using PVA and PVA glue to stick them together, and see how far I get this evening. I've not got very long now, so I'll be back very shortly to show how far I got in the next 20 minutes or so. Well, that was far more than 20 minutes. I'm late to bed now, more like 45 minutes to get to this stage, and that was actually quite difficult. There's a lot of things that are very similar. You can see here, this is a piece that I thought I needed, but it turns out I didn't. And there's it's a little bit fiddly and a little bit kind of awkward to get it all lined up. And you just need to really dry fit. I did a lot of dry fitting, but I still made a mistake on this one. And the only reason I worked out that I'd made a mistake on this one is because the little kind of like feet that they give you, and I really like these kits, I'm not criticising it, I'm just giving you some hints and tips, but the little feet they give you to keep relatively 90 degrees and keep the pieces together didn't fit. And so that told me this piece actually was wrong, and I found another piece. I looked again, found another piece that was right. The other thing is I actually made a mistake, put the 2 sides on the one way around, and then had too much of a narrower one at this point here as well, and then it was all skew-iff, and I had to go back and undo a few bits and pieces. So yeah, quite a challenging build so far already, but I think looking ahead, that's probably the hardest part. I hope that's the hardest part. It's also quite big, as you can see, but yeah, it's going to look great when it's done. And I'm pleased we've got cracked on, but now I'm going to go to bed. So I'm cracking on with this a little bit more. This is a much more challenging build than the bank, but I think it's going to look great, but it is much more challenging. One of the biggest problems I'm having is finding the pieces. Now, I mentioned this before as well, but I wanted to show a couple of little tricks. First of all, on this particular build, if you're looking for something, it's probably on this sprue here, sprue number 8, which just has so much stuff. I literally went through every sprue 8 times before I found this piece here, which is these stairs here. And the way I found it, and this is the simple trick, turn it over. Because you can actually see the shapes of what you're looking at, rather than being distracted by all of the lines and all the textures that are present on all of these models. Turn it over. So a really, really simple trick. I also do often, actually, and haven't mentioned this before, but I figure I should mention it. I do often cut from the other side if I'm having some trouble. Then I do sometimes find that turning it over and cutting from the other side can also prove to be useful. So here you can see that I finally, and again I went through over and over again looking for that, finally managed to find the next step, which is going to slot on there. And you can see that I'm doing a lot of dry fitting to make sure everything's right, because this kit is far more complex than the others, than the other ones I do. So yeah, it's just hard to find what you're looking for. So this piece here, I believe, we're now looking for the top of the step here, which is, I think I saw on here. This is the problem. You see something and then you lose it. There it is. This piece here is the next one I'm looking for. So yeah, that's probably the hardest part about this kit, is actually finding the parts. Like I said, I'm going around and round and round, over and over and over, looking and looking, and then eventually I'll find it and I go, yeah. So that slots in as the step there. So getting there, but yeah, much slower going than the bank. Well, this has gone together quite nicely. I've got a few minutes through the day today. Not very much, but just a few minutes. I'm very pleased that this has been finished to this state. I've deliberately not stuck any of the signs on because I want to paint them up, because they're quite, yeah, I would be a bit annoyed. It would be difficult to paint them, so I'm just going to paint them separately. But you've got removable roof and removable floors. Think I am going to be putting some internal walls in. You can see this is a bit flimsy, which is not great. I mean, surely it would be all right. I'm sure it wouldn't cause a problem, but I still think I'd rather there was a little bit more hard wearing. But other than that, it's absolutely superb. These builds are very, very solid. I'm very happy with them. And so yeah, very cool. So that's now going to go, like I say, maybe do some internal walls. I'll bring you along if I do that, and then paint and put some render on it, and then done. So yeah, pretty cool. For the other things, if I swing the camera around, you can see here that my desk is basically an homage to MDF, and it's starting to drive me a bit nuts, to be honest. I'm on step 120 of these instructions, and there are 182. So I'm 2/3 of the way through pretty much, and yeah, really starting to go a bit nuts. So I think that probably once I've finished doing this set, I'm going to leave the other two from the white box and come back to them when I'm feeling a little bit less jaded. So I think I'll just, yeah, it's kind of blown me, it's kind of getting a little bit samey again, so I'll go to something a bit different. Maybe have a look at the train for my Western project. But yeah, they're really good kits. The biggest issue is that particularly for this one, there's so many sprues, and there's so many parts, and there's so many very slightly similar parts that you have to be really super careful to make sure that you pick the right thing when you're making up your your pieces. So for example, you've got these little things and these little things and these little things. They're very similar. You've got a piece that's here which is very similar to these pieces here. Now they do actually, and they have done it quite cleverly, in that the size of the holes that the slots fit into are all slightly different and slightly out of alignment or whatever, so that you do definitely get the right thing. But if you look over here, this is my pile of oops, I popped them out of the sprue but they actually weren't what I wanted bits, and that's just a bit annoying. And also, if I was, I mean, I'm lucky to have the space, but if you had to tidy this up, like, you know, multiple times a day to make space, that would become very annoying very rapidly. You need to have a box to put it in, keep it tidy. So yeah, that's probably my only niggle. Same niggle as I had earlier, where I was like, oh, I picked the wrong thing and I've got to undo it. You just have to really dry fit much more than you do with the other kits, where they're potentially got the sprues numbered, or at least you can see a little bit easier where everything is, because this is like 5 buildings all squashed into the same set of 12 sprues. So yeah. Anyway, it's a minor niggle. I'm not really complaining much because, yeah, they're fantastic buildings, but it does just make it a little bit more difficult than maybe it need be. What I'm doing now is sealing the sand and gravel. So I'm doing this in stages because I really want to try to prevent the warp. So I've done the first third of the base, just putting the watered down PVA over the top. Been really careful doing this, as I did also score in some like ruts and into the track, which I didn't want to disturb because that was relatively loose, hadn't really stuck very well. So I've been very careful, hopefully not to knock those ridges down. But yeah, so I'll let that dry, move on to the next one, the middle section, and then finally at the end do the last section. When that's all sealed, then it'll be a case of getting a jigsaw, cutting out around the edges and then sanding down the sides, and then finishing the sides off. So when I've got to the cutting stage, I will bring you back on this project, but we're very close to finished. So I'm spending all this time putting together all this terrain for Wild West, and the reason is because I am going to be painting up and hopefully playing some Gunfighter's Bull. Now I think I could play it solo, but it certainly also has some very good starter rules and looks very simple to play. And most of them require 6 miniatures, 3 on each side. So I'm going to paint up the Vaquero faction from Gunfighter's Bull. This is the first ones I'm going to do. So today I've washed and cleaned them up, the miniatures. They were really clean. I just had a little bit between the legs of each one to kind of just take out some flash, and I've glued them down to the wooden bases. So I'm going to prime, paint these up, base them, and then hopefully I can get a game. It's not going to be a big video this, not going to do a specific separate video for this. I will just show what they look like and then we'll get a game in. But yeah, very happy. I'm the second box that I'm going to do once I've finished this. I've also got the Outlaws faction, which is still in its box, which I will do once I finish these. So yeah, these are going to go get primed and painted now. Well, finally finished assembling at least the Pitchstone Main Street from TTCombat, and yeah, that was a fun and quite a long process. Actually, I think I'm missing one piece. There's one of these pieces that's missing, which is a bit frustrating, but it is what it is, and I think I should be able to make up a little bit of an extra part. But I mean, other than that, it's gone together really nicely. I was just amazed at how much there is. I didn't think that this one kind of container would have all of this, have all of these buildings in it. I'm just looking for where the missing part is. I think it's on the bottom of this here. Yeah, you can see that I don't have the corner here because it didn't have. I didn't have them, unfortunately, and I've looked through and through the sprues over and over again, can't find it. So I'm going to have to make some of my own. I've got plenty of offcuts and what have you I can cut something out of, I'm sure. But other than that, which is a shame, other than that, I'm really impressed. I mean, they go together really nicely. I prefer that way of joining two floors together to the Sarissa one where you've got the tabs, because the tabs, well, they're a pain, frankly, to try to lift on and off. They can cause damage. And once you start to put some texture on, which is the next step for this, then the tabs really stop fitting even as well as they do when there's no texture. They start to become a big problem. So yes, I really like these TTCombat buildings. The other thing is, obviously, we've got the scaffold, which I'll be painting up, and then I didn't realise, but there were more boxes, so I've got lots of crates. The other thing is, I've not stuck on the signs deliberately. I'm going to paint them up, but these signs, one will go up there, and I believe one will go up there. And I'll need to work out a sign for the here. I'm not sure what these are going to be. I've actually got from Sarissa free download of a load of signs I can print out, so that they can put my own signs on there. But yeah, really happy to got them done. I've had enough of MDF for a while, so I'm going to finish these up. Next up, we'll be painting them. What I'll do for the paint is I will get the dark brown that I use, which is the Winsor & Newton paint here, the raw umber, and I'll slap that over all of the wood. and then I will use my grout texture to texture up where it's not wooden but it's basically rendered. So I'll bring you along for that. I'll show you how I do that. Probably what I'll end up doing is painting up some boxes with that paint, so you can see just, I mean, I slap it on, I don't really pay much attention, and then I'll bring you along properly for when I come to do the rendering. The roofs, I'm going to do my own. I'm going to actually put a proper roof on this one. The rest are just going to be painted as wood and left. So yeah, really simple. I cannot recommend this white box highly enough. It is superb value for money. While we're at it, I'm just going to start painting. This is going to be not something I do in one sitting, so I'll just get a little bit of this done. So I get my paint, and I like to paint out of the lid, because you always get paint in your lid, so there's not much way of avoiding it, and it means that you've got less to knock over if you're clumsy like I am, and you are risking knocking over the whole pot. It also means you can keep your lid a bit cleaner, because you're actually taking paint out of it all the time. So there's a couple of reasons I do that. But anyway, what I do is I water it down a bit, so I've got quite a wet brush, and I apply it quite thin, because then the underlying texture still shows through, so you're not losing the impression of planks, but you are giving it a nice solid coat of a non-MDF looking colour. So as I say, what I'll do is I will slap this over all of the bits I want to be wood, and also underneath some of the bits I don't want to be wood, because then I can make it look like cracked or damaged render. There's some metal parts on these. There's a ringlet there and a couple of bolts here, so I'll probably do something with that. I'll show you how I'll go doing that when I get to it. But the first thing is apply a base coat of this brown. So I'll just get that done. I've got to get back to work and I've just got a few minutes now. So I'll get that done quickly, and I'll do the rest of them off camera, and I'll bring you along when I get to the next step. Really, really, really pleased that I picked up this white box. I've thought about it for so long, and I'm so pleased I've got it, because it's just brilliant value for money. Really, really amazed at what you get, and the quality is really good. Really, really pleased. And I'm not just saying that. I paid for this. I haven't been paid to say anything. It's my own money, and I'm happy that I spent it on this. Well, I've been trucking on with this. Get it? Trucking? Yes, I did plan that joke. I've been making progress on this, just an odds and sods of time through the day. Today, I finally managed to get the chassis mounted to the rear end. That was a little bit fun. I did actually have to go to my super glue activator to get it to work. But yeah, crack it on. The next thing that I have to do in the instructions, which is starting at point 12, which is here, is I'm going to start making the engine. So that's the next thing. And I could have been doing that alongside it, but I am following through in the order of the instructions. But you can see once the engine is made, we're going to slot that in on the front and glue these wheels on. And yeah, I'm enjoying the build a lot. It's fiddly at times, but I'm really, really liking how it's looking. I'm very excited to get it done. Yeah, this week it's proven to be a really fun little thing for me to do. 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there through the day when I've been frustrated. Just pick up, glue one piece on, literally 2 pieces on, put it back, and slowly but surely it's coming together. So going to keep on like that, and hopefully get this done in the next couple of days, so I can then start on actually laying out the service station and the diorama, and wrapping up the build, because yeah, I've only got another 4 or 5 weeks to go before it needs to be finished. And at the speed I'm going at it, I'm not going very fast, I'm not wanting to, but it doesn't mean I need to keep being regular on it rather than irregular. Alright, so I have trimmed this off and sanded it down. So I used a mini jigsaw to trim, which was really awkward. I couldn't get good footage of it, but yeah, all you'd have seen is me struggling. It just took a bit of time, and then I sanded it down exactly the same way as I did initially with the Dremel and the Dremel sander. So what I'm going to do now is paint the same Africa colour around the edge, and then when that's dry I'll come along and use the same sand mix to fill in the gaps, and then seal it with another coat of PVA, and then it's done. So what's to do now is basically very repetitive, and probably won't worry about filming it all, I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished. Sorry, my arm was in the way then. Wasn't looking at the camera. That's better. Yeah, so I'll film again when it's finished and show you the finished product. But yeah, very, very pleased to have got this done, and I really like the result actually. I think it looks really good. And if I put the war wagon in, you can see that it fits really, really nicely. That's a really cool little display. I'm going to work on the rigging as well, but I'm not sure when. I need to work out how to do that. Might use a bit of wire or a bit of string, I'm not sure. I've got some string that might work. But the thing is I really want to be able to take the war wagon off because the war wagon could be really, really useful as a game piece or whatever, or as terrain. And I think it'd be worthwhile just keeping that so I can actually separate it out. So what I might end up doing is just rigging together all the horses and then having this so that it can kind of just be offered up to a part and make it just like so it goes close. So that's the idea. But the first thing I've got to do is finish all of the painting and texturing, and then I will bring you along for what I decide to do with the rigging. Alright, so time to make these look a little bit more interesting. I'm working on the only wooden buildings right now. What I've got is I've got this slightly redder brown, the one that I bought in Belgium. And what I'm doing is I'm not quite dry brushing, but I'm doing an overbrush to add a little bit of variety to the colour. I'm not doing it, like I say, too heavily, but I just want to add a little bit of kind of differentiation in places to make it a little bit more interesting. And yeah, it's working really, really well, really pleased. So I'm going to carry on with this over all of the wood parts, and then I'm going to start to do, I think, the grout. So I'll get this done, it dries very quickly, and then I'll start working on the grout. So I'll bring you along for that. I'm going to try and get some of the grouting done. I've also painted up some more of these kind of details, so some more crates and what have you. And these will also get the same treatment with this red paint. Or ready brown paint, just to make it a little bit more interesting. So you can see here, you just that's way too much, but it's quite transparent. So if it goes on too much, you can kind of thin it down quite nicely. This one's going to be a redder box by mistake, but it just makes it look a little bit more interesting rather than just being all dark brown and all the same colour. So yeah, just for a little bit of variety. Anyway, I'll get this done and bring you back for the next step, which will be the grout work on the bigger buildings. I'm really enjoying this project. Pleased I've stopped making MDF for the time being, and I'm just looking at finishing it up. It's going to be good to try and get all this completed, and then I've got a load more Sarissa coming as it happens. So that might jump to the top, over the top of the rest of these. Not even though these are absolutely superb buildings, I might do the Sarissa first. Anyway, I'm rambling. Onwards. So I had another delivery, and it is these two figures. I only need one of them though, which is going to be for taking the part of Trace, and I think that it's going to be Jordan. Oh, kick the camera. Sorry, Jordan Jesus Jameson is who I'm going to use. So I'm going to make this up, and he will be attempting to chat up the Hell No woman, which is here. Really pleased with how she's turned out. Very happy. If you follow my Instagram, you'll have seen that progressing. So yeah, so I'm going to make him. Same idea. Wash in soapy water, glue them together, fill with the gap filler, prime and paint. So I'll get that done, and next time you'll see him, he'll be finished and ready to go on to the diorama. So that's really cool. That's the final missing bit for now. Yeah, I did actually order a few, so they'll be going in other dioramas that I'll do, so they'll come to the channel as well at some point. But yeah, we're going to stick him together and get him painted up. I finished my bust for March, which is good because I'm filming this on the 26th of March, and so I'm a little bit ahead, which is always useful. So I've picked out, that's finished and been sealed and everything, so that can go onto the shelf. And I've picked out my next one for next month, which is that awesome bit of that awesome sculpt. Really, really cool. So yeah, that's going to be April. So again, I will. This will appear on my Instagram if you want to follow along, and I might bring it into the vlog a little bit, but mainly it's going to be an Instagram thing. So if you want to see how I do that, then follow me on Instagram, Beard Clipper. But otherwise, yeah, really enjoying this little challenge. It's really fun to be having and I do 22 minutes a night anyway, as just as a general painting thing, but it's really nice to try to do a bust a month, and having bought these from Kickstarter, it's nice to actually be making use of them, because sometimes with 3D printed stuff on Kickstarter you can buy it and then just never do anything with it, and this is really motivating me and keeping it going, so I'm actually making the most out of it. And Printomancer has a Kickstarter going at the moment for an awesome model. If you want to go and check it out, highly recommended. Really prints up nicely. So yeah, it's a big one though. It's 1/12 scale. So once that finishes, I'll definitely be painting that up on the channel as well. So yeah, one done. April's on its way. I've been chipping away at this all week. Made some pretty good progress. The chassis is attached, as you can see, and articulated, which is really, really cool. And the engine is just sat in at the moment. I've not actually stuck that in place. This is what I've been spending most of the time on. So let me just get that out. Right, there we are. I managed to extract that. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun for various reasons of fun, various meanings of fun, but it's nice to see it come together. There's a couple more things to add on, and then that's finished, and that can then sit back in the chassis as you saw. Then the front wheels will go on, and yeah, we're making some good progress. So I fingers crossed I'll get this done this coming week, and then I can really, I've got a month left on the project to get it all completed. As you've seen, I've got some of the figures, or all the figures now that I need, so everything is in hand, and I've got a month to wrap it up. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this scale. It's really nice. I do a lot of little scale, small scale stuff, and it's a lot of fun doing these larger scale models. I'm really enjoying them. So yeah, there we are. So carrying on with that. I'm not filming it because it's very fiddly and very annoying, but I'll just keep doing little updates as I go through, and any gotchas, I'll be sure to highlight them to you. But nothing so far, particularly on this kit. It's been pretty good actually. The instructions aren't great, but if you take your time, they are clear enough. I've been painting this up through the week and making some really good, nice progress. I'm doing it all with a brush, airbrush, still not touching, still scared of it. So it's taking a bit longer than it would do if you had an airbrush, but pretty pleased with it. Yesterday evening, I painted up a load of the metallics. The green glows in the dark, so that's pretty cool, but I've done the first coats on the radiators. And also I've started painting up a couple of other ships which are going to be flying around in the diorama that this sits on. I've had my ideas on that as well. So yeah, just 22 minutes a night, cracking on, taking it very, not slowly but steadily. I may put a bit more time into it today, if it's Sunday, so I get a bit more time to do that sort of thing. But yeah, really enjoying it. I've painted the underside, all of the metallics under there. Well, not all of them. I ran out of time yesterday evening, so I've still got to do this side. But yeah, just a little bit at a time. Very pleased with how this is looking. Well, there we are, another week done. And again, a longer video than I expected to do when I started editing it, but that just shows that I talk too much, I think. Thank you ever so much for watching if you've got this far. Really do appreciate it. I know that quite a few of you do hobby along, so what would be awesome is if you let me know in the comments below what you've been working on while you've been watching this video. That would be great. It really inspires me to know that actually people do hobby and listen, and that's basically why I do these videos and why I put everything in, because it's not about hammering and trying to keep your attention. It's about sharing my hobby journey, and that's all it's about. So thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to crack on with next week, hopefully get another couple of projects finished. I'll be back next Sunday. Hopefully you'll join me then as well. And I do want to wrap up by saying my thoughts go to everyone who is suffering in Ukraine at the moment. I don't hammer on about it. I don't want to bring it up too much, but it's continually on my mind. And if any of you are directly or indirectly affected, then my thoughts do go out to you. It was a horrendous time. Hopefully this will be resolved very soon, and peace can return. So here's to peace. And I'll wrap up by saying, as I always do, to everyone out there, please do stay healthy, stay safe, and stay well.